Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to go on and get started. For those of you who are subscribed to my channel, thank you for joining. I'm going to be broadcasting live on TikTok today as well, so I hope you will bear with me. Hey, y'all. It's been a long time on YouTube. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's get started. Okay, so I want to go live real quick here, and I'll probably go live in the group since it's the first of the month. Let's go with it. So welcome, 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 welcome. I have been talking to you all about burnout. We've been talking about burnout or ascension symptoms, and I have learned a lot talking to you in the tribe. I really appreciate those of you who showed up on the Instagram live and who comment and share because listen, it's not easy oftentimes when you're the leader, you're the go-to person where people are looking to you to show up and to show out. And a lot of times when it comes to us being able to tap into what's going on, what's going on, when it comes to us tapping into what's going on, sometimes we don't even know. I was just talking to a sister in a session today, and one of the things that she said was, I didn't even know what was going on with me. And what I have found in common with feminine leaders, women who are in leadership, executive positions, leading your families, offering some type of support somewhere, is you oftentimes are the last on the list. And I know that you hear that, and I don't intend for it to be cliche, but I find that my most educated clients are the ones who are the slowest to show up for themselves. It's easy for you to ghost yourself. And it shows up as you ghosting other people. And a lot of times when it comes to feminine leaders and those who are craving a softer life, you don't give yourself permission to be soft, because a lot of times in your mind, femininity, feminine traits, the sacred feminine is all something that's weak. You may not even consider this for your conscious mind, making a conscious decision. This is something that's very unconscious, is that so many of us have been programmed that feminine energy is something that is weak. And so I'm having conversations because I saw so many people chime in about being burnt out since 2020, right? So many people have said since 2020, we rushed to get back outside for 2021 or 2023, 22. Look, I skipped a whole year. The point is, we were so excited to get back outside and get back to normal, not understanding that nothing is normal. And you aren't either. And so when you consider the fact that you may not be normal because of the stress, hey, Robert Wesley Branch, because of the stress and because of the nature of internalizing stress, there are so many people who have spent 2 years not even talking about it, not processing, not asking for support. Many of you have still been shut down, unavailable emotionally, not processing any type of emotion because you're frustrated. And so when it comes to determining what is actually burnout versus ascension symptoms, a lot of us have not been able to tell the difference, which is which, burnout or ascension symptoms. Burnout or ascension symptoms. Ascension symptoms can mock the very thing that anxiety feels like, grief feels like, or what we call burnout. but it's the it a lot of times we associate burnout with something external, something that we're doing that is causing us not to have a lot of energy reserved for anything else. And what's happening for many of you who know better, but you don't do better, then there's also the guilt, the shame and the guilt that is attached to not being available to use your tools. And I know it because I've been there, right? I am absolutely not exempt from this. I actually called a dear friend when I snapped back into my body. And let me tell you the truth. Actually, somebody called me. Someone, an elder, called me and said, "Where have you been?" And I was like, I've been just trying to navigate things, right? Like I've just been trying to figure things out and realizing that I'm grieving. I internalized some anger and it spilled out into other areas of my life. But the first place that it spilled out was my health. Now, I typically do not get colds and that type of thing. Even during 2020, the fears that other people took on, I refused to take them on because I knew better. And that's a whole nother subject, but I'm just talking about self-awareness. I am one who's certified in holistic health. I'm an iridologist. I have certifications in all types of things like Reiki. The point is, I came into this work through the health and wellness, through mind and body wellness. And so I know that there's a mind and body connection. And if you are a metaphysician, then you understand that when by the time it lands in your body, it began somewhere in a thought or an experience. And when I realized, wait a minute, this is the second time I've been down with congestion or what have you, I had to say, okay, LaTanya, what's going on? And that's what I'm saying to you all. What's going on? What's going on? Because so many of you are coming out of the woodwork. But first, I had to come out. In order for my tribe to be able to talk about this, I had to recognize, wait a minute, if it's going on for me and I have tools, I have community, I have accountability, I have mentors. And if they don't know, and then let me tell you something really kind of spooky. Not It'll be spooky to some people, but not those of you who have metaphysical awareness and understanding. It'll be spooky to those of you who have not tapped in to your spiritual gifts. But those of you who have spiritual gifts, those of you who are empathic in nature, you will understand what I'm about to share. So as I started to talk and share, as I began to invite people into my own experience, and one of the things that I do is I'll out myself. This is a tool for some of you. I'll out myself. Let me call my most trusted core counsel. So when I got the phone call, I knew better than to, when you have an elder that has gifts and can see you and they know you and they know your patterns, you actually, you can pretend like nothing's going on, or you can use your tools. Wait a minute, yes, I recognize something is going on, but I just have had to take care of me. And so then after that moment, it was almost like I clicked into myself again. And I started to talk to my core group of people who I care about, who I know care about me and who will tell me the truth. And I was listening to them and what they had been experiencing and that type of thing. But then something else started to happen, because then I was able to pray, affirm, click back in, click back into my zones, right? Click back in. I'm clicking because I hope that this will click somebody in, click somebody else in, right? And I clicked in. And then the last few weeks of no, actually the beginning of the month, the last few weeks of December, I kept talking about prayer, because in all of this that I'm sharing with you is I told my prayer partners back in the day, here are some of the symptoms when I am burnt out, checked out, or going through something. And I said to them, I give you permission to see about me, to ask me what's going on, to check me back in, right? I give you permission to call me out, right? You're not here. Where are you? You haven't been showing up. What's going on, LaTanya? And honestly, that is enough to sometimes help me to say, really? Because all of us have childhood stories or experiences as young adults that begin to run our script and our tape. A lot of grown women think that you are running the show. And that is ego. And that's the very thing that causes us to tap out. I know I have a little girl that sometimes runs my show. And so my little girl will say things like, you don't matter. It don't matter. You don't matter. And somebody checking in on me is clicks me out of the little girl running the show. And I said, okay, wait a minute. Because when my prayer partners would come, and they didn't have to do it much, but that's not the spiritual gift part. That's using your tools part. What would happen is, as I started talking about my prayer partners this and on my prayer call that, what it helped me to see was I had not been using one of my most potent and powerful tools when I started to slip into feeling burnt out, feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, all of these things that showed up in my body as congestion. And so what was beginning to also happen is my gifts, my premonitions were coming in because my prayer partner made her transition at the beginning of the year. And even though I've told this story a few times already, I actually am pausing to give even space for my emotion, because I've been moving, and her prayers, and I knowing that my friend had held that sacred space for me, and there were three of us. And I was getting a premonition, which is oftentimes how my gifts will work. I will get a premonition in prayer. I will get a prophetic imprint on something in prayer. And I didn't know at the time, but it's because of my prayer cup being full, I was able to handle that news without slipping into a space that would take me under again. At the same time, I have been experiencing spiritual ascension symptoms because of the solar flares and the planets that were in retrograde that have been working on the Earth's atmosphere and all the people in it. I too have been experiencing spiritual ascension symptoms. And so how do you know the difference? Because life is going to keep on lifing, right? The government is going to keep on trying to govern, but a part of us spiritually is governing your own mental. You don't have to be governed by the government if you govern yourself accordingly. That's called stewardship in the church. So I say this to those of you who are entering into this month of February. We finally got through January, finally got through 2020. And where are you with your goals? Because there are so many distractions from what's happening on the planet and everything in it. The earth is speaking, giving us signals, crying out. The weather is talking. And that's all very ancestral as well. And are we paying attention? This is one of my favorite scriptures when I think of rebirth, because the earth is rebirthing. But when we think of rebirth, we tend to not think about the labor that comes with it. When we think of rebirth and transformation, we tend to not think about the death that comes with it. In other words, for something to be reborn, something has to either go through labor or die. And when in 2020 we were ushered into a new world order, and yet we were coming out of the ushering of the chaos and the misinformation and all of the stuff that was going on, and wanted to hold on to the thing that had already died. And now we're going through labor pains of this new earth, this new world order that's happening. We're going through the labor pains of new currency on the way. We're going through the labor pains of the quitting movement, to now people having to return to work. We're going through the labor pains of, who am I without this particular job when there's layoffs? Many of us are creating this with our discontent. There is divine discontent in humanity. And so when we talk about waking up, even when you wake up, there's a period of being pissed off. When you wake up, and the first thing of waking up is realizing what has been a lie. What have you been lied to about? A lot of things that you gate kept, that you believed in. The season of believing is over. This is the season of knowing. And so many people who have been practicing spiritual technology, let's call it that, but not really practicing it, playing with it. So when all hell breaks loose, you return to what's familiar. And in 2020, all hell broke loose. Many people returned to what was familiar, only to find out that it wasn't so familiar. Just ask the people who lost marriages. Ask the people who had to stay at home with loved ones that they didn't get along with. Ask people who are taking care of seniors right now. Ask people who are grieving the loss of loved ones, or did not adequately grieve the loss of loved ones. And I'm pausing to ask you to let that sink in, because the rush to return to something that wasn't here reminds me of those who were in Hurricane Katrina. And anybody who's from New Orleans, you can testify to this. When you go back to New Orleans, or when you went back to New Orleans, you wanted to go back to that thing that was familiar to you and it wasn't there. Imagine the people who grew up in New Orleans and like my husband. And when he goes to places that trigger certain memories and nostalgia, it wasn't there anymore. And many of you aren't here anymore either. You keep on trying to go back to the you that's not even here anymore, because something shifted for you in 2020, including the world and the planet that's rotating. Is this too deep for some of you? I ask with all love, because what I find with feminine leaders, feminine energy practitioners, is you use it for you at your convenience. Because the truth is, you don't really know it. You've only believed it. And belief can be stolen from you, just like faith. So this is the season of knowing. We're in the middle right now of Aquarius season. And Pluto is Plutoing. The girls are fighting. Nicki Minaj, Megan Thee Stallion, and some people are eating it up. Yet at the same time, I get off of calls with people who are doing that same thing that Nikki and Megan are doing to each other. They're doing it, you're doing it in your own families. You're doing it in your own tribes and sisterhoods, so-called sisterhoods, mean girling. The mean girl is familiar, but most of us don't understand that the mean girl is the most wounded. And your ghosting your communities is a lot of times it's a trauma response. It's a trauma response. And there is a way out of the hidden blocks to our love, sex, and money. Our love, sex, and money depends on us being able to use the feminine tools that are taught in Juicy. But I know that 2020 dehydrated many people, so you're not juicy anymore. You forgot about Juicy. Juicy. But Juicy is salve. It's salve. It's salvation. It can restore. It can repair. And it certainly can reset. And if you don't know Juicy, I'm inviting you to get to know Juicy. Come to the sanctuary. The Juicy Rebirth 360 sanctuary is open. The doors are open. This is an altar call. Will there be one? Alter your consciousness, alter the position that you're holding, that you need to be right about something or someone being wrong, even if you're spiritually awakening, because this is a time where things are manifesting really, 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 really quick, including you. And so what is the you that needs to be reset, reborn, recalibrated, repaired, remember? Pull the pieces of yourself back together again. I'm broadcasting live, y'all, for the very first time on TikTok, and I have my mentor who's watching me, and I am so grateful because I knew that I didn't send out any announcements, but I love the Tabitha Brown movement. I did a new thing, and I wanted to send a message to my cells, not so much to you, but to my own self. This is a selfie. That I'm doing a new thing. And I invite you, sisters who are watching now or watching the replay, to do a new thing. Or do the same thing in a different way. To send a signal to your cells. This is the beginning of the month. Everybody wants to welcome in prosperity. So you want to blow salt out the door, blow cinnamon into the house to attract the wealth. You want to clean your corners, anoint your corners. Or maybe you're not doing any of that because you don't believe it works because of whatever happened in your life. After I get off this live, I don't care how tired I am. I'm going to go lay down my intentions in my house, my temple. But these are things that I tend to talk about in sacred containers because there are far too many people who are monetizing the feminine. And this feminine energy of Kali Ma that's on the planet is not playing any games right now. And so what will happen is we'll see people arguing, or you'll see yourself reacting to things. That full moon in Leo set the tone. And we have some more cosmic events that are happening. But listen, Pluto moving into Aquarius is enough. Where is Aquarius in your chart? Where is Pluto in your chart? What is this? What is happening? You're going to feel it, and it doesn't need your belief. This is for the knowers. The knowers. What is, and so you play with words and syntax, words that sound the same often have the same origin etymologically. So Noah was a knower. Noah is the one who said something is coming. And many of you who are experiencing the ascension symptoms, you've been a Noah to your family, and they've looked at you like they looked at Noah, as though he was crazy. They called you names. You being the rebellious one, they called you crazy. They said that you didn't know what you were talking about. Or here he goes with that ish. Here she goes with that ish. They and whatever it is, it could be anything from you no longer putting a perm in your hair. You were the first to sound the alarm, to say something is off. Pay attention to this. Don't get the injection. Don't do this. Don't do that. And they said, don't. So those of you who are experiencing ascension symptoms, we have to be able to allow it to happen and also tell it how we want it to work. This is oftentimes like when you have spiritual gifts of being able to see, being able to hear, and sometimes nobody else can see, hear, feel what you feel. It can take over you if you let it. And one of the first things that you learn when you have these gifts is that you have to speak to your gifts and tell it, bring it under dominion, or you will be institutionalized. There are many people with spiritual gifts who are on Ritalin. There are many people who have spiritual gifts who have been misdiagnosed as bipolar, schizophrenic. There are many people who have spiritual gifts who we walk past every day on the streets. You don't have to be that. Because these ascension symptoms are good, it's a good thing. And there are other people who have not done any work on themselves who we still interact with every day. And they don't know that this is ascension symptoms. So what happens is we attach, or they attach, a narrative to it. See, sometimes when you don't know what's going on, you attach a narrative to it, and then unto you as you believe, it becomes reality. You get to be right. And so we have to work with these people, just like we see Nikki and Megan going off. We see the blogs calling people out. We see announcements of people coming out with truths that they've held on to. Because this energy is not letting us pretend. Aquarius alone is a disruptor, but Pluto is the radical transformer. And Pluto goes into whatever is hidden to call it up. It's the investigator, the revealer. So that means even if it's in us, when we experience spiritual ascension symptoms, you need to have tools, because when the shit comes up, you need to be able to, well, first of all, you listen, when the shit comes out, because the truth is many of us are spiritually lazy and emotionally constipated. So when it comes out, it's not because we've been on an intentional detox. The universe is detoxing everything on it. And it will look like chaos, but I assure you, I at least what I've been told from my counsel and elders, everybody should have a counsel and some elders, that this is a good thing, that we're in a transition right now of many systems, including your own nervous system, your own immune system, your own endocrine system. And we could go on and on to at least the 9 systems in the body, just like there are 9 major planets. And there are government systems that are set up to mimic and mock the systems of you. But if you don't know that you are the divine being, the catalyst that your prayers are sending out signals, even the discontent, the divine discontent, what many people are calling burnout is a dark night of the soul, because that energy is here on the planet. And dark nights of the soul can rebirth you. I've had a few. One of the most pivotal dark nights of the soul was so necessary for me to accept a call on my life that I had been in resistance to. Dark nights of the soul is a separate conversation, so I promise you I'll come back and I'll pick a platform. Right now, I'm working I'm working with what's working with and for me, what feels good to me. Why? Because I'm a manifesting generator. And I've come on and I talk to you all about astro human design intentionally. I come on to talk to you about that because the study of you will help you to know what chess moves to make and how to make them. So I want to close this out here on this platform. I go live more often in the Rebirth 360 Sanctuary. I give detailed steps and formats for how we need to move and do, and we do exercises. We have reference material that we're studying together and sharing ahas and digesting the information and whatever is shocking and coming up to. I do special sessions every month to dive more into your divine design. I call it devotion because it requires the energy of a devotee to study yourself and show yourself approved for whatever the desires of your heart are. The only reason we haven't manifested certain things is because it hadn't been hidden in our heart. The word says to hide it in your heart. But most of us are hiding our truth. We're hiding the discontent. And each one of us has 4 to 5 authorities and strategies. The manifesting generator, which is me, why I started with it, the generator, the reflector, the projector, and the manifester. All have strategies and authorities that I promise you does help your mental wealth. Because if you can start with that, when you can start interrupting the not self and the behavior patterns of the not self, it can help with the burnout and the ascension symptoms. And I want you to know more about that. The next special session is coming up in 2 weeks. Get into the sanctuary so that you can get a special membership incentive to attend, or you can pay as you go. And listen, I give so much away for free. Come and have a conversation. Tithe with your presence. Show up and show up boldly by engaging. So if I have been of service to you, like, comment, or share with your community. I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. Contact me at the link at the bio, rebirthwithlatanya.info, rebirthwithlatanya.info. Or if you're on TikTok, check the link in the bio. And listen, whenever I go live, you are invited. You don't have to wait. You can come have a seat at the table. I'll be serving a main course most of the time. Well, actually, I'll be serving appetizers. I'm working on not serving the main course out here in these streets, but in the sanctuary is where the table has been prepared. So I love y'all. There's nothing you can do about it. Thank you to my dear brother for watching and hanging in there and sending me energy. I felt it. Thank you for being a part of the first. All right. So I'm ending my live on TikTok, and I say come and follow and do all those good things. We'll do more on these platforms, and I look forward to talking to you more. Yeah. I think there's something else I want to tell you, but this is enough for now.